We got this video that we'll play here, but the video is from a traveling nurse that was working at the same hospital as my mom. They didn't work together. They're in different units.
Okay.
But this shit went fucking viral. Like this lady went like on a 50-minute rant about the conditions and shit here, and
Did it ring true from what your mom said?
What my mom just emphasizes the severity of the whole pandemic. You know, she doesn't go and try to opine as to how things are going to, or how the hospital's operating. She's not, she's not really gonna go ahead and dispute what this lady's really trying to say. It's just that basically it's a fucked up situation, you know, and but like medically, that kind of stuff. I mean, there was nothing that, I mean, from my accounts, I mean, she's a actual nurse. I mean, she knows what she's talking about as far as the conditions and treatments and all that kind of stuff. But the stuff that she was saying is fucking horrifying. You know, it's nothing short of it.
All right, we'll put it on.
All right, let's see if I can do here.
First of all, what's going on in Texas, I don't feel like it's being broadcast like they did in New York. Why, I don't know. The facility that I was at, they have surpassed New York, y'all. If y'all can imagine that, they have surpassed New York. What I experienced this past month there was horrific. I don't know. So, of course, like, okay, I was in El Paso, Texas. Of course, majority of the patients, well, just about all of them, were Hispanic, which is a minority. For some reason, the doctors there did not aggressively treat those COVID patients as they should have, as I have experienced before. So I saw a lot of people die that I feel like shouldn't have died. Y'all, that assignment there broke me. I was put in what's called a pit. And in this pit was 8 patients, all COVID positive. My first day of orientation, I was told that whatever patients go into the pit, they only come out in a body bag. 8 patients, 8 COVID positive patients, all on vents. Myself and 3 other nurses. There was always 4 nurses in there. We had 2 patients each. They were the sickest of the sick. They were sicker than any COVID patients I've ever seen. They were young. I'm used to when we run codes, we do everything we can. We exhaust all measures to save our patients. Anybody that know anything about CPR, 1 round is 2 minutes of CPR, which normally includes chest compressions and bagging them. The patients that we coded, we were not allowed to bag them because we would get too much exposure, which I hadn't seen. And because they were COVID positive, this hospital's policy was they only get 3 rounds of CPR, which is only 6 minutes. There's, out of all the codes that we had there, there's not a single patient that made it. Y'all, this, when I say this assignment here, like literally almost destroyed me. Like I called my husband from there, I called my best friend from there, and I just cried. And I just said, what I'm seeing here is just not right. The doors open and a bed, they came coming in with a hospital bed. So I'm thinking they're bringing us another patient. Y'all, the morgue was so full of bodies that they had ran out of room. So once the doors open to the pit, they come wheeling in a body already in a bag, lined them up with the rest of our alive patients, because they had to store the body in there because the morgue was out of room. They've had to bring in freezer trucks because there's so many bodies. I was naive enough to think that maybe if I tell them to put me in the pit every day and I work with the same patients every day, continuity of care. Maybe I can do something. Maybe I can do some good. Those patients were so sick, it was nothing we could do for them. I posted about a patient the other day that when I went to work, the nurse was sitting there doing nothing. And the patient's blood pressure, I think, was like 78/42. So I'm like, what are you doing? You just sitting here. Like, yeah, we know they gonna die, but we still have to do something as nurses. I prayed all night long and said, Lord, please don't let this man code on me, because I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me to do CPR on another patient. And I know our efforts are going to be in vain. They're going to die anyway. I remember this man bleeding profusely, and I remember calling the doctors that was there. Y'all, to have a doctor tell me we don't come in those COVID rooms, I'm like, what? Y'all, the doctors don't even step foot in those COVID rooms to see those patients. I was there almost a month. I never once saw a doctor come in that room because they were COVID positive. Y'all, I feel like the treatment that those patients there are getting, when I say it did something to me, I literally, the first hour of my drive home, just cried. Doctors would not. We as nurses, it's okay for us to be exposed. But you as doctors, you do not even come in there. You can't get exposed, but we can. Why is Texas not being broadcast like that? Texas has surpassed New York. We had 4 freezer trucks. 4. They had to show up because it was so many people dying. Although I knew nothing I was going to do was going to save any of those patients. Y'all, we got a 29-year-old patient in that pit, a 31-year-old patient, a 41-year-old patient. They are all younger than I am. I'm 44 years old. And to have the families call you night after night after night for an update, like anything was going to be different, was horrific. To know that the only way those patients was coming out of that pit was in a body bag. If those doctors there would aggressively treat those patients from the beginning, a lot more would make it. Y'all, and the saddest part about it, my first night there, as I was getting orientated, the nurse that orientated me had one patient that was called the VIP patient. She was a doctor's wife. And when I say they pulled out all the stops for that woman, it wasn't nothing that they didn't do for that woman. And guess what? She was the one patient that made it out of that ICU alive.
Wow.
And was able to downgrade to a long-term acute care.
Jesus.
So you mean to tell me because she's a doctor's wife, her life meant more than any of those other patients? Why they're not getting that attention? I feel like they're not, because they're all Hispanic, they're all minority, and it's like their life don't matter. Because what I experienced there in my 13-year career, I just, like I said, I cried for days, and I was supposed to stay 2 more weeks, and I just, Wednesday night, I just said, Lord, I can't do this no more. Was a traveling MP come to the call, and she's like, why aren't y'all bagging the patient? Y'all got to bag the patient. Their nurse told her, we don't bag here. We're not exposing ourselves like that. And I was like, wow. I could not believe what I saw there, what I experienced there. I could not freaking believe. Horrific. And they rule is you only get 3 rounds of CPR. Y'all, that's 6 minutes. I'm used to running codes for 45 minutes, hours. 6 minutes. You get 3 rounds. After 3 rounds of CPR, if there's no approval, no sign, they call it. So we have yet to work on somebody, perform CPR on somebody that actually made it.
To get the gist of why this went viral here, and needless to say, people that did see it freaked out immediately, and we're calling into the hospitals. That's specifically that's a university medical center here in El Paso, and the family members that do have patients there have family members freak the fuck out and demanded to know how their family members doing, and I mean it was fucking chilling for me, bro. Like I heard that before we went on, and it still hits me like a fucking ton of bricks, bro. I mean this is my home, you know, like this is my hometown, and I grew up around that hospital because my mom's worked there for so long. And to hear the situation that my city's in and the hospital I was born in, I've been in that morgue when I was on rotations in high school. You know, I know what they're talking about, and it's all. I mean, it's surreal and it's fucking terrifying, to be honest. You know, to me, to think that the way that we're operating, or the way they're operating in my my hometown is it's that deteriorated. And you know, you have somebody like what she's saying there about, you know, doctor's wife, and they'll go balls to the wall to make sure she doesn't die, you know. But then anybody else that goes through that pit, that has to be in intensive care because of COVID, you get 2 rounds, you get 6 minutes, and if you don't bounce back from that, then they're calling it on you.
Yeah, and that's just a question of like manpower, right? Like, if they had more staff, they could have, you know, given them 45 minutes like they need it, right?
I mean, if it is, you know, if that's the problem, look at what she's also saying. You know, she's talking about doctors don't even want to go in to examine a COVID patient. They don't want to risk the exposure for them. That's their job. That's their doctors, right? You know, it's a precarious situation to be in as a doctor, but that's your job, is to try to save a patient's life, right? All right. So this is for the court blocks El Paso lockdown order as the virus deaths rise. So the Court of Appeals in Texas blocked that local lockdown, and the virus has killed 180 people in just the past month. So the judge that we were talking about, Ricardo Samaniego, he's the top elected official in the region, and he's the one that was overruled.
Wow.
See, so here we go. Ken Paxton, the state's Republican Attorney General, quickly sued and argued that Samaniego overstepped his authority by setting up restrictions that went beyond Texas governor's own pandemic-related rules. So in a 2-1 ruling, the 8th District Court appealed, ruled that Samaniego did not have the authority to overstep the governor under the state's Disaster Act, which outlines powers local officials have to respond to emergencies.
Would allow for possibilities that parties might identify some standalone restrictions in the local lockdown order that do not violate the governor's rules. Like, that's fucking depraved. Like, they're saying you can't do an additional rule because the governor set forth his rules, and his are the only rules you can have. It's just
that's the argument, that you can't go beyond the governor's own pandemic response.
It's just sick, man. It's a fucking sick country we live in. I'm just like...
And here we go. 5 mobile morgues are currently being used in El Paso. And it says the region's 7-day positivity rate has fallen about 4% over the past week, because I think people... Look, when you go out to the store here, when you go out to pick up food or something like that, people are, by and large, wearing masks. It's not a situation where they're not. The lapses in it are open restaurants and bars, and you go in there, people are socializing and congregating, not wearing shit as if it's fucking normal. That's where the lapses are. You can tell right away where the lapses are going to be when you're in your own house, when you're at a family member's house, when you're out, when you actually do go out to a bar. And I've gone into these places to get takeout. I rush the fuck in and I rush the fuck out. But while I'm there, I can see everybody at a fucking table, and I look around like, what the hell are you all doing sitting in a fucking restaurant right now? You know, in the midst of a pandemic, how bad does this shit have to get?
Well, it's like, I think people have the mindset that, like, I'm willing to take that risk with my life, but they are just self-centered, you know, American, like, individualists, right? They only consider the world from their own specific, you know, their own like their own experience of it, right? Like, they're only going to take that amount of care that they have to protect themselves. And it's like, if you ask them, I'm sure they would say that, like, yeah, I'm willing to risk getting sick, not realizing that the stress that they're putting on the system through all the people they come into contact with, all the people who are going to have to deal with their ass once they get sick, these fucking nurses who are having to, like, you know, look how traumatic that nurse was, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is all the nurses, I'm sure, or most of them. You know, like 50 nurses have been infected.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, they are just assholes. I mean, they're greedy, corrupt assholes. And if let me redirect.
This is the shit. Like, this is the precursor, man. Because we're going to be having more of this shit. Like, as climate change gets worse,
yeah,
we start having mass amount of refugees in parts of the country
and this,
and the
this
world
is
are
one,
uninhabitable.
And this is one pandemic. It's not like it's not like there's going to be a shortage of those. And not like climate change is conducive to stopping any kind of pandemic either when you have refugee crises because of that. But to this point, so Samaniego argued that the El Paso order was needed to prevent unprecedented levels of death in the community. Others, including the El Paso mayor, pushed back, saying the lockdown unfairly burdened small business owners and would be too great of an economic hit. Business owners have been calling.
I blame on Trump, though.
Look at this. Business owners have been calling me every day in tears, saying that DeMargo, mayor, asshole, said during a press conference on Thursday, how is the county going to provide financial assistance to business owners who still have to pay their taxes?
Yeah. Like, this is the shit I blame on Trump. The financials of it shouldn't be in the conversation, right? Like, the financial aspect of it should have just been taken care of by the government, by the federal government from day one. It should have just provided, you know, all of your expenses and just taken care of the businesses like a normal country would do. It's just like, it's just sick. Like, we can't look at what everybody else did and follow their successful example and not put our citizens in this kind of situation. And we just keep doing it, right? They're just fucking sociopaths, man. Like,
and more than 50 registered nurses in El Paso County have been infected with COVID-19, and one of our members there has died of COVID. The National Nurses United wrote. The case has also drawn attention from local leaders in other parts of Texas, with officials in Harris, Travis, and Fort Bend counties filing court briefs supporting the lockdown order. Paxton's office, meanwhile, has warned against court filings that uphold El Paso's lockdown could lead to similar local restrictions across 254 counties. God for fucking bid. Without swift action by this court, the Texas Supreme Court, other counties may soon follow, precipitating the potential for a collapse of the state emergency plan and response by turning a unified strategy into an uncoordinated, disorganized, and conflicting 254-pronged approach that endangers the lives and livelihoods of every Texan. Do you believe that that's the fucking argument this fool's making? If there's 254 different fucking plans, it's because your plan is not good enough to control the fucking pandemic. That's on you. If local municipalities are trying to go ahead and do what they can to save their people, it's because they know that you're not doing enough.
Yeah, and they're purposely not doing enough.
Yes.
They're purposefully trying to flaunt the orders like they've been doing all along. They started trying to, like, support Trump, trying to back up with this, like, you know, top-down narrative that the lockdowns are tyranny, and what did that asshole say? What did Bill Barr say? It's like the greatest restraint since slavery or something.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're trying to frame everything in this like as it's some sort of invasion on your liberty, and it's just purposefully. You had, as soon as they started doing that, you had the fucking chud governors, DeSantis and this guy. Not what's your governor's name? Not Abbott. Abbott's the lieutenant governor.
No, Abbott is the governor. Dan Patrick's the lieutenant.
Yeah. So they had these assholes like deliberately coming out and trying to make as light an order as possible to keep this like to back up this narrative.
So Justice Yvonne Rodriguez wrote in her 32-page dissent that the governor's attempt to override local officials violates the small government ethos of the framers woven into the Texas Constitution.
Yeah, exactly. There's that too.
So in the 7 days this expedited appeal was pending, the county has gone from having 1 refrigerated mobile morgue for the overflow of bodies to 6 refrigerated mobile morgues. How many more mobile morgues will come to El Paso before the Texas Supreme Court is able to render a final answer? We're so understaffed that we're now using inmates to help use deceased COVID patients on the mobile overflow morgues. This got sent to me a couple of times. So, we're using prison labor to help move the bodies just because there's so many and we're so understaffed.
Oh, that's cool.
So, had a video.
That's free market innovation, right?
So let me go and pull up the video here. There we go.
Dude, did you see Adam Driver was on John Oliver and did some Star Wars shit?
You see this?
Wow. And they wear the fucking striped outfits?
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got hired to do this at $2 an hour.
Wow. I think that's pretty good for a prison too. I think they get paid less than that usually.
Yeah, they do, but still, I mean, this is where we're at in the COVID situation here. I mean, the things are just deteriorated so badly. We're talking about 10 mobile morgues. And
what do you mean? They always use prison labor though.
Yeah.
Like they're probably stoked. Yeah, man. They don't have to pay like some expensive contractor.
But I mean, like, just to see all the bodies that are lined up in those mobile morgues now, it's just fucking heartbreaking as shit to go ahead and see. And but it's not really a surprise that they've resorted to prison labor at this point. I mean, when we talked to Johnny before on the podcast about what he experienced. I mean, of course, they use prison labor to fight fires in California. So of course, during the pandemic, they were going to be using prison labor to go ahead and subsidize But
I don't know what they're going to do. Like, they're just not even going to try to combat it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, do the best you can.
Yeah, we're kind of left to the whims of the state now with the whole lockdown challenges and all that rest of that shit, because what it looks like for the most part, I mean, the red states are going to red state, and they're going to sacrifice people at the mercy of the economy and stand behind that messaging. And, you know, even with Biden coming in, I don't know exactly what he'll be able to do at a federal level to go ahead and curb the individual state decisions. You know, because they'll call. I mean, they're gonna just continue to ignore the crisis until, I mean, with no real end to it. So